Welcome to the Lemons and Pineapples podcast, the self-development podcast for women who want more. I'm your host, Emma O'Brien. I'm a no-nonsense life coach, a seasoned entrepreneur, photographer, rescue dog mum, and women's empowerment champion. Each week, I share self-development strategies, amazing guest interviews, and uplifting conversations that will help you up-level all areas of your life. Let's dive in. Hi, folks. Welcome to season 2, episode 20 of the Lemons and Pineapples podcast. This is the last in the series of podcasts focusing on women's empowerment. And I'm very excited to share my guest with you today, who is Carol O'Kelly, who is going to be sharing how to use the power of personal branding to transform your career. First, a bit about Carol. She is a strategic marketing and business development expert. She's an international keynote speaker, author, a personal branding specialist, and the CEO of Red Storm Communications. Carol has worked with many high-profile brands over the last 20 years, both in Ireland, the UK, and the US, has captured attention as one of the leading proponents of personal branding for high-level C-suite executives, female founders, and international organizations, having worked with leadership teams in companies such as Ernst & Young, KPMG, LinkedIn, and Enterprise Ireland. Carol's mission is to help as many women as possible discover a deep inner belief in their capabilities, ignite impactful personal brands that express their own powerful brand voice, to confidently embrace their authentic, iconic identity. Welcome to the podcast, Carol.
Thank you, Emma. That was some introduction. I'm all about authenticity, and I'm honestly listening to that thinking, that's actually not me. But it is, I suppose it is me, but it's very difficult when you hear about it, about yourself in those terms.
I know. And I think that's the thing when I read intros out, you go, oh, that's me. I forgot how brilliant I was. And I think this is a perfect kind of segue into this conversation today, because I think, a lot of the work you do is about helping women really step into their own power and their own brilliance. I think as women, we struggle with that. Can you start us off with this conversation by sharing what exactly is a personal brand?
I'll start you off with telling you exactly what isn't a personal brand. This is always my intro, because I speak a lot on international stages. I work with women one-to-one, and I work with teams, and I work with female leadership pipelines and corporates. And I'm always up against, as a speaker, I'm always up against a photographer or a stylist who says, well, now, if you're less comfortable wearing pink and more comfortable, say, wearing teal, that's your personal brand. So if you're more comfy with your left shoulder forward than your right shoulder forward, then put your left shoulder forward. That's your personal brand. And it drives me wild, because we've done 12 years of research in international corporates and with international banks that fund female founders and female entrepreneurs. Women lose out hugely in business, in work, in corporate. I suppose what is less common now, that corporate linear career journey, because they don't say, my name is Carol and I'm brilliant at what I do. And it doesn't come naturally to us. But personal branding is not the colors you wear. It's not the style of clothing you wear. It's not whether you wear glasses and a bun. It's not whether you've got hair like Emma's beautiful blonde curly hair like mine that was soaked this morning in the rain in Ireland. Straight into the podcast, looking slightly not as good as I can sometimes look. Personal branding is a very deep, strategic, purposeful positioning of the value that I bring to the marketplace or to the world or to my community or to my school, to my university. But it's very purposeful. It's done with huge intention, and it is a deep strategic positioning of you.
Yeah.
And it entails several different pillars, and we'll go through those probably throughout this chat. But it's strategic. It doesn't matter what I wear. It doesn't matter what I look like, unless I am going for the CEO job in a bank and I show up in jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, we have to be a little bit copped on, if that's a great Irish term, copped on
Yeah.
about the way we appear. But it is strategic, purposeful positioning of my value.
Yeah, and I think coming back to what you've said about women, I guess there's centuries really of conditioning here of the good girl complex of, oh, make sure you're quiet and you're not too, you don't stand out too much. And compared to men who I think often, I'm just going to say it as it is, there are a hell of a lot of very average men out there talking themselves up and I think getting hired for positions because they just own who they want to be, I think, not necessarily even who they are.
And I
And as
think that's the
women,
point. That's
yes,
exactly the point. It's not
yeah,
that we are less good at speaking out. It's that we are literally outspoken in a hyphenated way, outspoken by somebody who is very often mediocre.
yeah.
I work with an awful lot of women going for promotion, for example, or going for
Mm.
boards or international positions. And you see those job descriptions, and they'll say, "Well, I've only done 19 of the 20, so I won't put my name forward." A man will look at it and go, "I've done two of those, so given the chance, I'll be amazing." And in
Yeah,
fairness, they're really good at doing that. And we as
yes.
women need to learn that.
How do we go about doing that? I think because when we've been schooled into, and this is my take on it, is it's not ladylike to be arrogant. Again, it's not even arrogant talking your skills up unless you're, lying. Um, it's not arrogant, but my take on it is that one could come across as being arrogant, or one could come across as being full of yourself, and it's not ladylike, and it's it's not elegant. Somehow, again, this is my take on it, that somehow it's elegant to just sit and look pretty in the corner, shut up, and be overlooked for promotion, and just be the PA, because that's that's all
Because
you
we're
can.
so good at doing that.
We're good at doing that. We're good at doing that. So how do we
I
change this?
well, I think looking at yourself authentically,
Mm,
you're really good at what you do. Most women know what they're good at doing.
yeah.
They're not necessarily good about explaining it because there's the fear of actually vocalizing the fact that I'm good at something.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know whether it's the fear that I've been taught not to say, not to be the one to jump up first. I don't know. I think a lot of people in general, but a lot of women and specifically have this thing. And again, it's a real Irish phrase. You meet a woman, she was in school with you, she was hopeless at maths. Now she's head of some global corporation. And women will often kind of look sideways and go, "But I mean, who does she think she is? Like, who does she
Yeah.
think she is?" So that's what we have developed a framework. Now, over the last probably 8 years, that framework has gone into the formulation of corporate programs, the programs that I would work with a woman like you, a woman like any of your listeners. I'd bring it into corporates, into teams. We've done so much research into the different pillars that go into building a personal brand.
Yeah.
And if you work gently, and I would always use the word gently and with ease and authentically, all overused words, but all used in this instance for quite a specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
If you work your way gently through those pillars, that fear is absolutely eliminated. The
Okay.
imposter syndrome piece that women are, you go to a women's conference, there's always a speaker on imposter syndrome. My journey and my imposter syndrome. And yes, it's a very real thing, but it's a very easy thing to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Talk
work
to me
with,
more about that.
yeah, well, so we work with things. I mean, I work with women of every level.
Yeah.
There's self-doubt and there's fear of being seen as X, as the bolshy one, as the who does she think she is? Oh, look at she was in my class in school. I mean, who does she think she is now? If we work through the pillars, things like so the first pillar is always me,
Mm-hmm.
so the value that I bring. It doesn't matter if we both did the same university degree, if we both went to the same school. I then did a different job. I played a different sport. I dated different guys, or girls. I traveled on my own. You traveled on your own. I lost all my bags and my passport, whereas you had a wonderful experience. All of those things are similar. but the end product is incredibly different. So even if your background or your education is quite similar to somebody else in the market or somebody else that you can see, very often it's the culmination of those little incidental stories that will make up this wonderful package. So yes, you and I can both work in communications. You and I could both be actuaries. You and I could both be deep tech founders. But the actual value, the package that I'm bringing to market is very different. So the first thing in a personal brand is you need to know what that package is.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to know it honestly. You need to know the weaknesses in that package. And you need to know the real strengths. And if there's a gap that you feel is actually letting you down, get to know that gap and fill that gap.
Yeah.
Then the next most important piece is the brand voice.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I communicate. It's how I chat with you. For example, we had a good old chat before this recording started. We'll have another little chat at the end of this recording, no doubt. There'll be a lot of giggles and a lot of laughter because we are both very good at what we do, but very easy. And
Yes.
our voices, our brand voices, are chatty, easy voices. So I can tell you I mean, I wrote that bio that I sent you. I
Yeah.
wrote it myself over the last, 5 or 6 years, it gets added to. But when I hear it in somebody else's voice, it actually makes me quite uncomfortable. So if I told you now my bio, it would sound very different because it's in my voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how you tell somebody how good you actually are. That's your brand voice. So that you're not the woman who is going, me, I'm the best, me, I'm the best. Nobody wants that.
No.
But equally, nobody wants you to go home saying, but why did I not get that slot? Because I was perfect at that slot. And I
Yeah.
hear that a lot with women. There's so much more in me that nobody knows. How do I get that out there? Your
Yeah.
brand voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I hear in there is getting to know your strengths. And I guess there's an element of practicing how you deliver that, writing it out
Definitely.
and getting succinct with it. I had one of my coaching clients actually, it's sort of a conversation along these lines of why can't people just come and find me? And I said to her, but you're going to be waiting forever if you want people to come and find you. And that's what I hear when you say to me, there's
Very
very
much.
talented women go home and then why did nobody pick me? Because there was somebody else who'd got in touch with their strengths, had written there. I mean, I don't know, do people use the phrase elevator pitch? It's been a long time since I've been to a networking meeting and had to deliver an elevator pitch. But it's being able to, when someone says to you, what is it you do, Carol, to just deliver it, not, oh, well, been on a couple of international stages, but whatever. I mean, it's just it doesn't inspire confidence unless you're able to confidently deliver what you do. And I think that's a big
Yeah.
skill.
It's confidence, but it's also comfort.
Mm,
So if I deliver my brand value, my brand story, and that really, to me, as a woman who runs a business, a bit like yourself, my brand story is what I do.
yeah.
So do I go in there with my 30-second elevator pitch? I am the CEO of a communications agency. We're based in Ireland. We work mainly in the US and the UK. We specialize with senior female leaders and we work on their personal brands and positioning. If I deliver that in a network, that's what I do on paper. Of course it is. If I deliver that in a
Mm,
networking
mm.
situation, people will go, oh, I'm just going to grab a cup of tea and they'll leg it. Because that brand voice it's not my brand. It's not me literally making friends. People do business with people. If
Yeah.
I want you to remember what I do, I've got to give you a hook,
Yeah.
something that you can hook onto so you can introduce me to somebody else and go, this is the girl, she works in personal brands. I think mainly for women. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's you've written your story really again gracefully and with ease, and you can just trot it out, deliver it. But people
Yeah.
don't feel they're being sold to.
Yes. Yeah.
And another great way that women are superb at delivering value is by telling little value laden stories about what they do. And you'll often see on my social media um, side of things, so Instagram, LinkedIn, will often start with, I had a really interesting chat with a client during the week. Here is the question she asked me. This is the answer. This is the solution we came up with together. Because people can then say, oh, yeah, I've had that problem. Yeah, I get
Hmm.
that. So stories for women are a very clever way without saying I'm amazing, hire me, is of showcasing what you've done, how you've done it, and who you've done it with. At your most authentic. I was trying to get into a huge company in New York recently, and I started with the story about when I was a bit anxious. I was going in to deliver this massive masterclass to this brand, named the woman who was very well known. And I said I was kind of anxious because I was all, dressed up, had the hair done, 200 people in the room. And I was anxious going in. And what I did was I did some breathing exercises before I walked on stage. Very interesting. What I really was saying was, this woman knows who I am. She met me personally at the door. I made the effort to get my hair done because it was important to me. I'm showing that I'm really quite normal and quite likable because I was quite anxious. I
Mm.
then dropped in the fact that there was 200 people in the room, so I'm on a big audience. It's just an introductory story. So all you hear is the story, but I delivered the value bullets that I need to land with you.
Yeah. And what I hear when you tell me that is Carol's on a stage in New York with somebody very well known for a big brand in front of 200 people, and she pulled it off. And that, for me, it gives you that ultimate professional. If I'm looking for a keynote speaker, I know you're going to deliver.
Exactly. But I haven't said, did I tell you about the time I walked onto this massive stage in New York with a really well-known person? Because that's not likable and you're not going to want to work with me. And it's not me. That's not me. So
Yeah.
I feel the more women let each other get to know them,
Mm-hmm.
the better that personal brand comes across. And the much more likely I am then to repeat your story or to say to somebody, I know a woman who. And that's where most work comes from.
Yeah. Word of
And
mouth
men are
marketing.
great at doing that.
Uh-huh. Yes, I know. And I think it's always quite interesting because I've been quite triggered by some men in a similar, with the photography industry is an interesting one. So we know I'm a photographer as well
Mm.
as doing coaching. And I found it quite triggering with some of the male photographers who trot round and they're like, oh my God, I'm so amazing. But they're getting the sponsorship from the big brands and they're getting what they want. They're getting the coverage, they're getting the big jobs. And you have to look at it and say, yeah, you might be triggered by it, but you have to stop hiding in a corner, going, I really hope someone spots my stuff, and start to have a look at how can I also own what I do? How can I also, they're just going after opportunities. And I think as women, we don't, not chase things down, that's not the right word, but we don't seek out and put ourselves
We don't chase
forward.
things down.
No,
We
no.
don't. And it's an interesting piece that you mentioned there about, photographers coming on and men in work coming on. And it's a question I get asked a lot because I would work a lot with fintech,
Mm-hmm.
finance, male dominated pharma, those kind of, so you've got women quite high up in leadership surrounded by men.
Yeah.
And the question is always the same. And it's always such an interesting question. Should I become one of the lads? Or do I go to the opposite extreme? Should I become a princess and wear pink and pearls and satin? Because women feel they either have to completely fit in and be one of the lads, be one of the photographers walking around talking, being a bit macho, talking the same way that the men do, or the complete opposite. And I would always say you won't win on either of those extremes.
Yeah.
If you go down the middle, but make sure you deliver the same amount of value and you talk about your value in the same in the in the same way as the men do, but in a very feminine way and in your own chat patterns.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah.
But I would say to women, know your top five bullets, your value bullets for every audience that you think you're going to be in front of. And without going in going, my name is Carol Kelly. I run and yeah, and I do this and I if I'm going home on the train or going home in the car going, okay, I met a guy who was head of this. I met a woman who was mid-level this. I delivered those two value bullets to him, these three to her. I'm good. I'm golden. They know what I do. They know the value I bring. I was quite likable. I was easy. I was quite confident. I wore something that suited me and I chatted.
Mm-hmm.
That's a win
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I know what value I need to tell them about and I tell them.
Yeah. 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 And to use a really awful phrase to circle back round, is you know what value you bring. And I think that comes back to the second pillar that you shared, is being crystal clear on what
Yeah,
value you bring, you personally, as a human creature, what
yeah.
you authentically bring to the table, and you can articulate that. Carol, you said there were a few pillars. We've done two. Could you tell me about some of the other ones?
Why don't I tell you another one or two?
Tell me another
Because
one or
nobody
two.
likes to tell all their secrets at
No,
once.
absolutely not.
One thing I would say, and we saw it very clearly after COVID,
Mm,
you can go on now, as I said before, personal branding is a very deep strategic positioning of me. You need to go, quite honestly, quite deeply inside yourself. You need to be very honest with yourself about, I'm actually really bad at doing this. I'm bad at finishing things. I'm bad at
mm,
looking for the next piece of business. I'm bad at following up. I'm bad at accounting. Be honest with yourself. I'm good
mm,
at connecting with people. I'm good if somebody's going through a bit of a dicky time. I can go in and I can be that bridge person. I'm really good at that. Never build your personal brand, as we saw in COVID, as we all did in COVID. I lived in a bedroom and I built it in my little sanctuary. Then you open the door and you're like, oh, oh, oh. So my audiences they don't need this brand. They don't value this brand. They don't see a relevance in what I'm delivering. So, yes, go deep, but constantly be mindful of not the one audience that you speak to, but of maybe, I would say, five or six different audiences. So, you've got clients, current clients. So, say for us on this call today, we've got our current clients, we've got our prospective clients, we've got people that we might network with. We have people that know other people that are looking for exactly what we offer, but we don't know that.
yeah.
So look at who those connectors, those influencers, and those stakeholders are, and look at the value they need. And think about the voice
Mm,
that they will take up that value from. So you need a bit of thought leadership, but you don't want to be formal and sit back in your chair. And literally people sit back and they tell you about themselves and then they move in again when they're, so everything adds to your brand. So if you're very aware of who are the different groups that you're talking to. And I use I wouldn't say three pillars, but three stages. And each stage is mirrored. So the first one I would say to you is, what value do I bring to market?
mm-hmm,
Be very clear. Have a look at your audiences and think about them buying from somebody like you. What value are they looking for?
mm-hmm.
And what value do they value? And is my value the same? Because sometimes you can say, I sell into fintech and I bring huge value to them. They're not looking for that value at all. So be
Mm-hmm.
very careful that there's a nice close line between the two. The next one I would say is, what relevance do I bring? Is the work, the thought leadership, the research, is the piece of work I am bringing, is it relevant? Is it in
Mm-hmm.
any way relevant to the market I'm selling into? And looking at all your different audiences. So I would sell in a lot. I work almost exclusively with women on a one-to-one. The people that buy me are usually men. So I have to be very careful that they see the value in working on their female leadership pipelines. So I have to
Yeah.
sell to their need there. Whereas they're actually not going to sit in the room with me. I'm going to be working with women. The value that I deliver to them is very, very different.
Mm.
And then I need to look again and see, am I working into audience sectors that are relevant for me to grow my business? And again, do those audience segments see relevance in me? And finally, and I think genuinely the hardest for women, is, what impact do I want to make? And women almost exclusively have an issue with the word impact. And I get that, because impact means a 24-wheeler truck hitting a brick wall. It's impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I am a lady. I don't want to make an impact. And I work with with a lot of women, with one woman who I don't think I've really heard her speak. She is so quiet. She makes the most she's the CEO. She makes the most incredible impact. So you don't need to be big and bolshy and loud and shouting. And I've only done two of those things on the list, but if I get a chance, I'd be amazing. Pick me, pick me. No woman wants that. Nobody wants to work with that either.
No.
So choose the impact you want to make. And again, mirror that, looking at your audiences and the people that are looking to work with you or might be able to connect you, or if you're looking for funding, who's signing off on those pitches, who's signing off on the seed funds, what impact do they need you to make in order for them to say yes?
Yeah.
And that needs to be very deeply woven into that personal brand.
Yeah, and there's so many layers to this, and there's almost this chameleon aspect of paying huge attention to who's in the room you're in, and I guess adjusting yourself to suit when it comes to landing the business. Am I hearing
Yes,
that right there?
yes. Adjusting the message,
Yes.
but not adjusting yourself.
Yeah.
So your personal brand is yourself, me going to market. My
Mm.
message for the man who's going to sign off on my funding, or the woman who is buying me in to work with her female leadership pipeline, or the one partner track, the one man who should get it but just isn't really there. The message for each of those is different. I remain the same.
Yes.
My personal brand remains the same.
Yes. It's
And
you.
that's the only way it works, because
Yeah.
that's where the authenticity comes in. And I always
Yeah.
say to clients, you can be as polished and as you can bring the value, you can be as relevant as you want. You've designed and you've delivered your impact. And if somebody walks into you, and I'm walking into the office with my cup of coffee, wearing my white shirt, and somebody goes, oh, sorry, the coffee goes all the way down you, the way you react,
Yeah.
that's you.
Yeah.
So the closer you can be, the less shock when something goes wrong and you react, oh my God, what have you done? People then aren't shocked by your reaction. If they go, I really wasn't expecting you to react like that, you've broken
Mm.
all the trust that you've ever built with that person.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine. If you're somebody who's walking around talking about how you're a great communicator and you're wonderful with people,
And
and
I'm
then you
so
punch,
zen.
I'm so zen, and then you punch the person who dropped coffee on you in the face.
Yeah,
That's a very extreme example there from Emma, but I think that's it. If you've got to be congruent with who you say you are, and
yeah.
perhaps don't wear
And
white.
a very
Says Emma
simple,
wearing white with no
yeah,
coffee near me.
I know. And that's why Carol wears black a lot. But a very simple example of that is if I build my brand around certain sort of values that I know for a fact my audiences will really want. So if I,
Yeah,
for example, I'm a startup fintech,
yeah,
I'm going for funding, and I say I'm in the 5 a.m. club. I run before work. I do this. I'm full of ideas. I personally am very dynamic, high energy. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to bring her into the meeting. And then I come into the meeting 10 minutes late,
yeah,
slightly, people say it. I'm a little bit hungover this morning. And I'm like, but no, 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 this is not what I bought in. And then they say, so has anybody got any ideas, any innovative ideas? And you're like, no, I'm not clear. No.
yeah,
It's a very simple thing. People build their brand on what they expect others to want, to expect from them, and then they
yeah.
don't live it. And there is no trust. And when there's no trust, you can't really build trust back.
No,
So if you're
no,
going to do
absolutely
that,
not.
build it on something. I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and I walk after work, really simple. And I have great ideas, but I sometimes need time to sit with the problem. So don't, land on me in a meeting and go, ooh, ideas. So be clear about your brand. So
Yeah.
therefore, it's much easier to build trust and keep that trust.
Yeah, and what I hear in there, and I think this is something I'm finding is so missing for so many people, is honest and integral communication
Yeah,
of not feeling like because you're in a room full of people who are in the 5 a.m. club that you have to lie about the fact that you can't get up at 5 a.m. It's
different
okay.
is good. Different is good.
Different is good, absolutely. And if you can get the job done, but you happen to be somebody who works till midnight to do it, it's also completely okay if you're delivering on what you're promising. And I think
Absolutely.
it's a great conversation piece. Yeah, you won't find me at the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning. I can promise you that.
Well,
Ever.
I'm an ex-swimmer and I was always in the pool for about 4:30 in the morning.
Ugh.
Now I've gone the other extreme and I will always work late, late, late. I have a big deadline this morning for clients. I worked until nearly 3 o'clock this morning.
Ugh.
World was dark and I knew nobody else was working and I felt this was like sneaky work time. And I was getting all of this amazing work done and everyone else was asleep.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is brilliant because my mind goes whoosh in the small hours of the morning. When I feel everybody else is watching TV or doing stuff, that's not me. It's not
Hmm.
me.
No, no. And I just to raise here that even though you're not swimming at 4:30 in the morning, you do swim in the sea.
I do swim in the sea almost every day in the Irish Sea, which is
The
not warm.
Irish Sea.
It's not
No,
warm. It's
no,
definitely
no,
not warm.
no, no, no.
No, no,
I take
no.
my hat off to you. I won't get into water or a pool unless it's heated, unless it's at, bath temperature, then Emma will be in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I suppose in a
Anyway,
way that is my 5 o'clock in the morning club, and I do
yeah,
drop that into a lot of conversations. I was in the sea this morning,
I
and they're
bet you do.
oh, yeah.
Yes, but
And
people look at
again,
you
it's
very
something.
differently.
It's something different about me. People think
Yeah.
I'm absolutely nuts. During the summer, everyone goes, "Oh, so was I." Come November, February, March, they're like,
No,
"Oh,"
no, 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 no.
but it's something they remember about me.
Yeah, I'll bet it is.
Yeah, human people are genuinely interested in other people. What time do you go to bed? What time do you go? What do you eat for lunch? What do you have for breakfast? Oh, he
Yeah.
did an Ironman. Oh, how did you do your exams and you were working full time? And how did you do? They're just genuinely interested. So as a real clever hook with a personal
Hmm.
brand is give me something to remember about you, something
Yeah.
positive or
Hmm.
something different.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love it. And I think it's just, and it comes back to your authenticity piece of it's actually okay to show up as you. I mean, you
Yeah,
might not show up as, you might not bring all of your strange pastimes into the first meeting you have with a client, but
all of them.
depending on what you do, but I think it's a great talking point for people. And it also, I think when you share things like you go and swim in the Irish Sea, there's a whole load of subtext under there for me as well.
You
There's
bet.
somebody who pushes through a great deal of discomfort. There's somebody who does something that not a lot of people do.
Oh,
There's so many other things underneath that I think speak to
yeah.
how it would be to work with you if I hired you. And I
And
I
I
I know
think
I'm
that's
reading a lot into that,
no,
but I
but that's
think
the crux of it. What a
yes,
personal brand is going to do
yes,
is tell me, do I want to work with you or not?
yeah.
And if I'm like, for example, next week I'm giving 2 full day sessions to 2 separate companies back to back.
Hmm.
And I will say, if anybody's at them, you'll catch me out. I will say at the beginning, looking around the room, I will ask everybody to introduce themselves.
Hmm.
You will always get, without exception, I have 25 years experience. I'm fully qualified in whatever it is that I do, blah, 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 on and on and on. But at the end of that, I'll say, I cannot tell you who I would like to work with in this room. You're all fully qualified. You've all got, 20 years experience. I couldn't tell you. After the tea break, when we will not talk about work, we will not talk about anything but the traffic, the rain, somebody's baby, somebody's dog that wouldn't come in. Then I'll tell you exactly who I'd want to work with, and I'll be right because it's that
Fascinating.
easy over the coffee chat.
Yeah,
Then I know what you're like.
yeah.
So the quicker you
So
can get me to know you that way, the
yeah,
faster I will say, oh yeah, yeah, she's the girl I need.
excellent. So many takeaways from this conversation. This is a brilliant one. So the next time I'm pitching a stress management course to HR, I'm going to lead with, in my spare time, I like to swim with humpback whales. They're not going to forget that.
There you go. Maybe even my pet humpback whale.
The pond isn't big enough. The swimming pool
Damn it,
slash pond, it's
you
not
need a
big
bigger
enough.
pond. You need a bigger pond.
Don't know that anyone's got a big enough pond for that, Carol.
I love it. I love it.
On that note, I'm going to wrap us up, but I'd like you to talk a little bit. You've got a Creating Impact series of masterclasses that are starting on the 7th of November. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who've listened to this and thought, I need some more Carol time. Just tell us a little bit about that masterclass series, what it's about, and how people can sign up for that.
Okay, so a biggest part of my job is to explain to people what personal branding is, and secondly, why do you need to build a good, likable, value-laden personal brand, and how to get visibility on that personal brand. And the education piece is huge. So I run an awful lot of free sessions to try and build that awareness, mainly for women. Men are always, always welcome. So this series is going to be 5 to 7 masterclasses, depending on how much we get into each one. Each one is an hour. They're completely free. They're live on Zoom. There's a landing page that I'm going to give Emma the details of.
Yep.
It's 1 hour. The first one is called From Vision to Impact. So looking at your personal brand, what is the vision you have for yourself? What would you like to walk into the room and people go, oh, that's Carol O'Kelly. Oh, what is that package? And how do you build it from that vision to walk into the room and make that impact? One thing I'd say about these masterclasses is I'm not one for talking. I'm one for talking and teaching so that you can go off and do it. So they're really hands-on, they're really practical. The first one, we're doing 5 game-changing tactics to move your personal brand from that vision to the impact you want to make. 5 to 7 of them, depending.
Amazing. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. So folks, go and sign up. As you would have heard from the podcast today, even though Carol said she was not going to share all her secrets, she's shared an awful lot of them here. So I'm really, really grateful because
that's my devilment, because everyone says to me, stop talking, don't tell them, keep a little bit of, but I'm like,
yeah,
the more women understand, the better we all are together, I think.
Absolutely. And I think you've scratched the surface of it because there's so many sort of puzzle pieces in here.
Yeah.
But my takeaways are I can share that I've been swimming with humpback whales. So I'll take a toy humpback whale, drag one into a meeting with me. I think that is a big takeaway of just being yourself and sharing something about you. It's okay, as long as it's not anything too weird. I think there's got to be a line somewhere. Maybe don't lead with this weekend. I was doing magic mushrooms. Probably not the best thing to start with, but
as long as it's on brand and you're delivering value to the audience in front of you, say whatever you want.
And this piece of having an impact and tailoring that to you, that an impact doesn't have to be big and loud and noisy. It's how you devising your own way of making an impact. Even like you've said, you've got someone who's a CEO who does it quietly, but it's very, very impactful.
And if any of your listeners today are leaders, on your head be it if you ignore the very quiet person in your team, because they're very often the deep thinkers. You need to facilitate them to quietly give their opinion and quietly give their ideas. They're not going to shout over everybody else, but don't write them off.
Yeah. Oh yes, always the quiet ones that
always the quiet ones.
Was the quiet ones. We don't think everyone could establish I'm not generally the quiet one in a room.
I was just going to say that's not either of us, am I?
That's not either of us. No, I'm the one cracking jokes in the corner. I'll bring the sarcasm to the party. So this was wonderful, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Oh, so welcome. Just finally share where people can connect with you. I'm going to put the masterclass link in the show notes. Where is the best place for people to connect with you online?
So I'm always on LinkedIn. So it's linkedin.com/in/Carol O'Kelly. No apostrophes, all one word. And then on Instagram, I'm Carol O'Kelly Personal Branding. No apostrophes, all one word.
Magic. I'll pop both of those in the show notes. I'll pop your website in there as well. And then folks can go and connect with you, Carol. Thank you again for being here.
DM me, feel free. I will answer everything online, everything. Anything you want,
Love
just
that.
ask away.
Okay, there we go. There's an open invitation that you might wish you hadn't made.
You're more than
Carol,
welcome.
thanks.
More
Thanks
than
for a
welcome.
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful chat. It was fabulous having you with me
And
today.
listen, thank you for the invitation, Emma.
Thank you for being with us today, folks. I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed it, please leave me a 5-star rating and a review, and make sure you share this episode with a friend who you know will also enjoy it. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram. Please drop me a DM and say hi at Emma O'Brien Coach. And for more information about coaching with me, please head to my website, which is emmaobrien.coach.com.